Hey everyone, welcome to the Identity Love Podcast, episode 27. I'm Tracy Konane, and I am a life coach and identity specialist for folks who have lost themselves in their relationships and feel like they don't know who they are anymore. And so what I help you do is to not only find yourself and understand what it is to be you in your relationship, but to do it in a way that you love and feel attracted to and enjoy being. So then you can show up in your relationship in a much more happy, healthy, wholehearted way and become the partner you always wanted to be. And so that is what I'm here to help you do in this podcast. What I wanted to talk about today is your responsibility as a partner in a romantic relationship. And again, this is one of the things that nobody ever teaches us. We don't have to go through any training class or schooling or certification in order to be in a romantic relationship. We just exist as adults and we meet another adult and then we feel attracted to each other and we decide to be dedicated to each other. And then we just go off and figure it's going to be wonderful. But there is nothing that prepares us for this relationship with somebody else that you feel so strongly about and that you have so many hopes and dreams towards. There's nothing that tells us the right way to do it or how we are supposed to see it and how we are supposed to conduct ourselves healthily in this relationship. And so while I am not necessarily a relationship coach, I am a relationship coach for yourself because the quality of your relationship with yourself is the thing that affects all our relationships, romantic or platonic, or just some stranger on the street. The way that we show up in these relationships with these other people is entirely based on our own relationship with us, how we feel about ourselves, who we think ourselves to be, how strongly we are in our own identities, or are we feeling like we are in conflict with ourselves? We don't like who we are. We do not have a strong relationship with ourselves. We have lost ourselves because we are giving our identities and self-love over to somebody else. And so this is where the problem starts, is in our relationship with ourselves. So when we have a healthy, high-quality relationship with ourselves, we are taking full responsibility for ourselves, for our thoughts, our feelings, the way that we behave in life, what we choose to do in life, the way that we conduct ourselves in life. And thus, we are responsible for the results in our lives of what we create with what we've been given, right? Because there's so much that's outside of our control that when we take responsibility for ourselves and what we can do with all these things that we are given in life, when we're taking responsibility for who we are and what we choose to be in the face of these things, that is an amazing relationship because we don't feel like we are beholden and we are victims to all these things that are happening. Instead, we are able to make us closer to ourselves, to make us stronger with ourselves because we're saying, okay, this is what I've been given. This is what life has given me. I need to choose who I want to be and how I want to be in this situation. That is a beautiful, strong relationship with ourselves because we are putting all of our attention, which is love, right? When we love somebody or something, we give it attention. So we give ourselves the attention. We listen to ourselves. We pay attention to what we ourselves want to do. And we work hard to grow ourselves and become more of the person that we want to be. And so when we're able to show up more as the kind of person we want to be in our lives, we feel so much closer to ourselves. We feel proud of ourselves. We like the kind of person that we are. And we feel like we are growing. We are turning into more of the kind of person that we most want to be. And so naturally, when we like ourselves, we are so much less needy and dependent on how others are treating us. We can come into our relationships more focused and present and whole and healthy and not just reacting unconsciously to all these things that are happening to us. We feel in control of ourselves, right? So that's a healthy relationship with ourselves when we are taking full responsibility for who we become, despite and because of everything in our lives. And so what a healthy romantic relationship is when two individuals are taking full responsibility for themselves, and then they come together and share their lives and support and love and guide each other in becoming more and more of who they want to be, right? They're taking responsibility for themselves, and they come together in this relationship, and they support each other and love each other from this place of already taking care of and listening to and becoming more of themselves, of who they really want to be, and then supporting each other in that. So think of it like the MasterCard symbol where there's the Venn diagram of the two circles that come together in the middle. That is how I see a healthy relationship, where there's two whole circles that then come together in the middle, and there's this crossover where they're sharing themselves and their lives with each other. And then I think about in an unhealthy relationship where one or both of the partners are needy and reliant and not taking responsibility for themselves, I see it as the two circles coming together and overlapping, completely eclipsing each other so that there's just one circle, and you can't tell where one person begins or the other one ends, and you don't even know where your responsibilities are. You can't tell your emotions apart from your partner. Everything is just compressed together, and you don't know where you start, where you are, where you begin in the relationship, where you are separate from your partner. And that's where the problems start, because then you start to take responsibility for things that are supposed to be your partner's responsibility, or your partner thinks that you're supposed to be responsible for their responsibilities, or vice versa. It gets messy and complicated and confusing. And that's where so many relationship problems start, where you don't know where your own responsibilities are. And so two things happen when it becomes this muddled mess. The first thing that happens is that you are not letting your partner be responsible for themselves. The second thing that happens is you are spending so much of your time trying to be responsible for your partner's responsibilities that you aren't being responsible for yourself. Okay, and so this comes back to the fact that we were never taught what our responsibilities are in relationships. We are responsible for supporting and loving our partner and being a good influence, but we are not responsible for changing them and fixing them and saving them from all their emotions and the stresses in their lives and from the consequences of their own actions and from anything that they chose in their lives, right? Because we are in adult lives, and adult lives, any human life, comes with complications and trials and tribulations and ups and downs. And it is up to us to own our own lives and the problems and challenges that come with it, and to deal with that on the inside, and to want love and support from our partners, yes, but to take responsibility for the main parts of it, right? We don't think that our partner is supposed to come and save us every time that we feel sad, and we're not supposed to think that we're supposed to go and save our partners every time that they feel sad or something is happening or going wrong. So it is not your job in the relationship to be constantly taking care of every single thing, every single whim, every single discomfort, every single thing that your partner could benefit from, or we see it as them benefiting from it, right? Sometimes we're doing all these things and they have never even asked us to do these things. And so it is when we are not knowing our own responsibilities as a partner that things turn unhealthy. That's when we start to get emotionally unstable. We start creating unnecessary problems. we are not thriving, we don't feel love towards ourselves. This is because we have our responsibilities all mixed up. This is how it shows up in relationships when we are not taking responsibility for our own separate lives. What usually happens is that we don't treat our partner like our partner. We end up treating our partner like a spoiled child without us trying to do this, right? But here's what it is. We don't want them to feel discomfort or pain. We want to save them from themselves. We give in even though we don't want to at first. We might push back and say, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I want. And then we start to feel bad. We start to forgive them, make excuses, be like, oh my gosh, they're going through so much in their life right now. I really should just give in and let them have their way. If they are facing any kind of difficulty, we drop everything that we're doing and we go and fret and worry about them. Everything is just catering to them and their needs and what they want and how they are feeling. We change ourselves. Often, like I said, without them asking us to. We're trying to constantly adjust and fix ourselves so they will feel better, so they will always feel happy towards us, so they won't ever have to challenge themselves or put themselves in a difficult place or have to face change, because we don't want them to do that. We want everything to be easy and peasy and happy and nice for them. And because we are doing this, because we are so focused on taking responsibility for how they're feeling and how their life is going and how they are acting and what they are being challenged with, because we think that's our responsibility, that is how we start to measure our worthiness as a partner. We start to look at how good of a job we're doing, taking care of our responsibility, which is all of their stuff. And we start to think how good we are based on how happy they are, or how much we are saving them from their own lives, or how much we are alleviating our partner from their own responsibility of themselves, where we're taking all of their responsibility and we're shouldering it. And we're saying, okay, this is good. We're doing a good job because now my partner doesn't have to work. Now they don't have to deal with it. I'm dealing with it. I'm fixing it for them. I'm being a good partner. And that is the metrics that we're using to measure our worthiness and our love. And we don't realize we're doing this, right? We think we're just being loving partners, but it's a lot like the parent vibe, especially like an overprotective parents, like my parents, where they tried to protect me, quote unquote, from anything bad that I could see on TV or anything challenging or unpleasant that I might see in a movie or around certain people or in pop culture. And they sheltered me so much. And this was like into high school, where they wouldn't let me go and watch certain movies because I thought, oh my gosh, we don't want you to see that. And I remember thinking, how do they expect me to grow into somebody who is a worldly person who can handle adversity in her life? How am I going to turn into somebody who is strong and able to handle things if you are constantly protecting me from it so I don't feel any pain? Because my parents, they wanted me to be a strong and capable person. But at the same time, they didn't want me to see anything unpleasant or face any quote unquote bad adult reality things. So that's how we are in our relationships, where we are trying to take so much responsibility for our partner's happiness. But at the same time, right, we want them to be strong and capable. We want them to be mature, responsible adults. And then we start to get frustrated when they rely on us because that's what we've been showing that we're happy to do. And we feel like, oh my God, they're always needing me to do this. This is happening, so I always have to go help them with that. They're always asking me, even though I said that I'm busy. It's often not just our partners. It's us allowing them to think that that is what we want to do, right? And so we want them to take care of themselves. We want them to be the source of their own happiness and to take responsibility for their own lives, right? But at the same time, we're not allowing them to even have that responsibility because we're taking that responsibility on ourselves for them. Okay, so it is not your job as a healthy, thriving partner to go and take on all the responsibilities of your partner's life. Like I said, yes, you are there to support and love, which means when they come to you, you are supportive, you empathize with them, you say, let me know if I can do something within reason to help you out. But then you're not dropping everything and thinking, oh my gosh, if I don't go and alleviate this right now and save them right now and help them out right now and make them happy right now, I am being a bad partner. I am neglecting them. I have to come and save them. And we often don't think about it in these terms of saving, but that is what we are essentially trying to do when we're starting to freak out and judge ourselves if we're not able to make our partners happy and comfortable every single step of the way in their lives. It is your job to take care of yourself, to take responsibility of who you are being in your life, taking care of your own emotions, your own thoughts, your own pursuits in your life, to make sure that you are put together as much as possible and fortified and at peace and liking your life and yourself as much as reasonably possible in the current moment. So then when your partner is in need, you are not falling apart. You are there to be stable and peaceful and loving and be this fortified presence in their life so you can love them through whatever it is that they have responsibility in their life of dealing with for themselves. Okay? And same thing. If I am going through something really rough and unexpected, I do not want my partner to drop all of his responsibilities and come save me somehow and be fretting over me and stressing out over me and neglecting his own life and creating more problems, right, in the future because he dropped all his deadlines and he neglected doing his work and he's super stressed now because all of that is happening. I don't want that. I want him to have his own world taken care of. So when I need it the most, he can be a strong pillar. He can be somebody loving and there for me in his own sturdy way, right? Not coming to save me. It is my job to handle the things that happen in my own life. And this isn't to say that you don't go out of your way when things really bad happen. There is, of course, a time and place for when you want to drop something for somebody and go help them. But this is about knowing when the right time is and letting your partner deal with difficulties and to deal with coming to terms with things and to deal with their emotions themselves, ultimately. To take on the supportive role instead of the parenting and the saving role. Notice when you are thinking that it is bad that they are not happy or bad that they are struggling, or you feel guilty if they are struggling and you're not. So you try to then struggle over them, right? As if that's going to make anything better. It doesn't make anything better when both parties are frazzled and upset and falling apart. I want to take care of myself so that if something, heaven forbid, horrific happens in my partner's life and he is falling apart, I don't want to make it about myself. I don't want to make it mean, oh no, he's falling apart. So how am I going to feel love from him? How am I going to feel good about myself now if he's not there for me? I want to be the one who is already having enough self-love and has her own stuff together because I've been taking responsibility for myself. So then I can be there for him and love him from this place of knowing that he has a lot on his plate, which is his responsibility to deal with because he's an adult human being, and to love him and be patient and sturdy for him as he goes through the rough time. It doesn't make anything better when you are having a rough time and you know your partner's falling apart because they need you to be happy. It is okay if our partners are going through rough times. They are adults pursuing an adult life. And so when we are pursuing our own self-love and making changes in the relationship, sometimes we're not always going to be there as readily available as we were in the past. Sometimes we're going to have to set boundaries. Sometimes we're going to have to redo certain dynamics in the relationship that change things up. And we start to feel like we are, oh my gosh, being selfish or neglecting our partners or not being good partners because we're making these changes. But really, what we are actually doing is letting go of taking on all the responsibility of somebody else's responsibility. And part of the responsibility of being a partner with somebody else is allowing them to change and grow themselves, especially in ways that make them happier and more self-loving, right? It's our partner's job to accept that we are changing and growing and that the dynamic of the relationship is going to shift for a bit. And so, yeah, they may be a little challenged. They may have to adapt a little bit. They may have to understand a new way of being in this relationship. But that doesn't mean that you are somehow dropping the ball or being a horrible person or being selfish. You have to let them have responsibility for how they feel, even if it's in a reaction to you. You have to let them be an adult. You're not here to save them. At the moment that they're like, oh, you're going to go spend time with yourself today? When do I get to see you? It is not your responsibility to take it back and say, oh my gosh, does that upset you? Okay, I'm going to hang out with you then instead because I don't want you to have to deal with the discomfort of this changing. We have to let our partners adjust. It is their responsibility as an adult to adjust to a change in dynamics in a relationship because that's part of an adult life. We're not here to live easy, happy lives every single moment. We are not here to make sure that our partner never has to deal with anything horrible. It is not our responsibility to take on our partner's responsibility as a human being. Many of us could stand to be a little bit harder on our partners or the people in our lives. So many of us are showing quote unquote love by making so many forgiving excuses for our partner not taking responsibility for their own behaviors, feelings, and actions and results. It's not that you stop loving them or start acting unloving to them when you are holding them responsible for the consequences of their actions. If your partner never has anything they're supposed to be working on or improving, and that it's always you who has to take it on and improve and deal with things, that is why you're so unhappy and have so much resentment, okay? And I'm saying this in the most loving way possible because we are the ones, if we are not giving our partners responsibility to improve themselves and to take responsibility for their actions and feelings, and being a mature adult, then we're always going to feel unhappy and resentful towards them because we're taking on all the responsibility as well. We're going to have to give them some responsibility and stop making so much excuses. It breaks my heart when I hear clients tell me about all these things that their partner is doing, that they are enduring, and saying, well, you know what? He or she, they are just, they're having such a hard time. And so they tend to just mistreat me during these times. But then they apologize. They're sorry. So I forgive them. And I say, it's not your fault. Tell them it's their responsibility to work on that. So many clients think that their partner is so innocent and that they shouldn't have to take responsibility for anything because they're dealing with something hard in their life. This is an adult life. There are supposed to be difficult things that they're going to have to learn to deal with. Give them some tough love. Let them be responsible for the way that they're acting and treating you. If you always keep forgiving them, it's always going to keep happening again. And the way that you start to work on this is to start to see them as responsible for themselves and you responsible for how you react to them. You cannot immediately change, sometimes ever change, how somebody else is going to treat you. And that's not your responsibility ultimately. You need to take care of yourself so you can conduct yourself with the most strength and self-love during the times where somebody isn't conducting themselves in the most loving and strong way. We need to take care of ourselves, take responsibility for ourselves, and give them responsibility as well. And listen, while I'm saying this, I know that it is hard. I know that it hurts. I know that it is an emotionally wrenching place often because we've taught ourselves for so long that we are being loving and good by doing this. And it feels sad. We feel like we are doing something really tragic. We think we see the sadness and disappointment in their eyes when we're just doing something good for ourselves. When in the big scheme of things, it isn't something so horrible. They just need to adjust and to start to see it differently. If you look up episode 6 and episode 23, I talk about how we perceive things in our relationship. I talk about questioning what we believe in our relationships and how we tend to over-romanticize certain things in our relationship, thinking, oh my God, I'm giving so much. This is love. This is amazing, when actually it's not healthy. We're kind of doing the same thing when we tragedize. I don't think that's a word, but you know what I mean. We make it a tragedy when we have to shift something in our relationship, when we do something good for ourselves. We make it a tragedy because we start to tell ourselves this sad, sad story about how we're taking our love away from them, or how they're not going to be able to handle it, or that I'm neglecting them. When really they are an adult human being who can adjust. We can try to soften the blow of the change by being communicative and letting them know that we love them, right? But we have to allow ourselves to make the important changes in our lives and to give our partners the responsibility of adapting to this thing that is going to make us happier and healthier and give them higher quality love in the long run. Right? So this is actually giving more love. And so if we tell ourselves this tragic sob story about how we're taking away all of our love by making ourselves happier and giving ourselves higher quality self-esteem so we can then love our partners more, then we are delusioned. We are telling ourselves something that isn't helpful. We have to look at what's really going on. Is it this big tragic thing, or is it you finally saying that you're going to have time to yourself, that you're going to pursue something once a week or something like that, or that you're going to go to bed earlier, or that you're going to go to bed later, or that you're going to go and hang out with certain people at certain times? What is actually going on? And is it actually a tragedy, or is it something that we need to deal with as grown-ass humans? Again, we want our partners to be strong and capable. We want to rely on our partners. We want to be healthy and happy and whole in our relationships for both sides. So in order to do this, we have to give our partners the responsibility of themselves back so they can grow themselves, so they can take responsibility for themselves, so they can handle and deal with the reality, which is that you yourself have your own identity and self-love to tend to in the relationship as well. Self-love and having our own identity is about taking full responsibility for ourselves and letting other people be responsible for themselves. And then loving them while they are doing that and while we are doing that. Let your partner have their own responsibilities. The more that we take responsibility for ourselves, the less easily affected we are going to be when there's something going on with our partners. The more sturdy and at peace and present and loving we are going to be when stuff is going on. Knowing my own responsibility, taking responsibility for me, taking all that effort and energy and focus away from trying to control him and manage his life and putting it back on myself, is me finally doing my job as a healthy partner. Finally doing my real job, my real responsibility as a healthy partner was focusing on myself and my own emotions instead of his. Focusing on developing and growing my own life and my own fulfillment instead of making myself responsible for his daily happiness and fulfillment. I take care of myself. He takes care of himself. We come together in the middle and support each other through it as we take care of our own individual selves and actions and feelings. Pay attention to your own emotions. It is not your partner's job to save you from all your insecurities and from the things that happened in your past. It is not my partner's job to save me from what happened in my past relationships, to save me from what happened in my childhood, to save me from my insecurities and struggles. It is his job as a partner to support me and love me as I work on that myself and take responsibility for who I become because of those things. We have to take charge of ourselves. If we feel insecure about something, we need to address that and work on that within ourselves. And yes, we can ask our partners, hey, I'm working on this within myself. Can you please support me through this and love me through this? And it would be helpful if you did this. And of course, we communicate with our partners if we want them to change and improve themselves in some way. But the problem comes from if our partners don't do that. If they don't take what we are saying, if they forget, or if they don't understand, or if something happens, then we feel like, man, I can't change now because of them, and they should be doing this for me. And we feel helpless and hopeless and sad and unhealthy, emotionally, physically. We hold it in our bodies. We create more problems. So yes, it is asking them to do things for us and communicating. But at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to also be working hard on taking responsibility for our own emotions and actions as well. This is what I hope you do, is I hope you to decide who you want to be despite and because of what has happened. It doesn't matter what has happened in the past. I decide that I want to become healthy in the future. I decide how I want to be in my relationship for myself, not to try to change or save my partner, but to be the kind of person and the kind of partner that I want to be in the face of reality, in the face of an adult human life, in the face of a roller coaster and unexpected things and uncertainty. I want to take care of myself and be stronger and capable and loving towards myself as myself. So then I'm so much better for everything else. Okay, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Go forth this week. Notice when you're starting to try to manage your partner's emotions, when you're trying to save them from their own lives and from being their own person. Notice when you are giving your emotions over to their responsibility, your basket of eggs into their hands and saying, please take care of these eggs while I sit here and let you take care of that. Make sure you're taking your basket back and giving them their own basket back, and you take care of your own eggs. So you're not running on empty when you deal with your romantic relationship and every other relationship in your life. All right, everyone, take good care of yourselves, love yourselves, take responsibility for yourself. I will talk to you next week. Goodbye.